The news spread across the galaxy within hours. The Vothric Grand Armada, the largest military force ever assembled in this sector of space, had been destroyed. Not by another empire? Not by the combined forces of the Galactic Council. By 40 human ships defending their homeworld, the Battle of the Kuiper Gate became the most talked-about event in galactic history. Military academies studied it. Historians analyzed it. Everyone wanted to understand how it had happened. On Vothros Prime, the new Vothric government faced a choice. They could continue the war, send more ships, try to avenge their losses, or they could accept reality. General Krevdak, now the acting leader of the Vothric military, chose reality. He opened communication channels with Earth. "We surrender," he said simply. "We agree to all of Earth's original terms. We will withdraw from human space. We will return Kepler 442b. We will pay full reparations for the lives lost. And we formally apologize for our actions." It was the first time in 6,000 years that the Vothric Empire had surrendered to anyone. Ambassador Hannah Seok stood before the Galactic Council once more. The same chamber where she had been laughed at 3 months ago. The same ambassadors who had dismissed humanity as children playing at war. No one was laughing now. "The Galactic Council owes Earth an apology," she said. Her voice was calm but firm. "You sided with our murderers. You ignored our cries for justice. You forced us to fight alone." The chamber was silent. Finally, High Priestess Velmara stood. "On behalf of the Galactic Council, I apologize to the people of Earth. We underestimated you. We allowed ancient prejudices to blind us to the truth. You asked for justice. We gave you mockery. You were owed protection. We gave you betrayal." She paused, looking around at the other council members. "But you taught us a valuable lesson. You showed us that age and size do not equal wisdom or strength. You proved that courage and determination can overcome seemingly impossible odds. The Council formally recognizes Earth as an equal member with full rights and protections." Hannah nodded. "We accept your apology. But understand this, we will not forget. We asked for your help and you refused. When the next species comes to you seeking justice, remember what happened here. Remember that we had to fight alone because you would not stand with us." The Council voted on a new measure. Earth would be granted a permanent seat on the Council's Security Directorate. The species that had been mocked 3 months ago was now one of the galaxies. Decision-makers. The vote was unanimous. Back on Earth, parades filled the streets. The crews of the Ninth Fleet were treated as heroes. Everywhere they went, people cheered. Children dressed up as fighter pilots. Adults wore Ninth Fleet patches. Songs were written, movies were planned, books were published, but the people who had fought didn't feel like heroes. They felt tired. Admiral Taeyang Kwan stood on the observation deck of the rebuilt Indomitable. Looking out at Earth, he had been offered promotion to Grand Admiral, command of all Earth forces. He turned it down. "I'm done fighting," he told Earth Command. "I've spent 30 years at war. I want to teach the next generation how to avoid the mistakes we made." He accepted a position at the Naval Academy. Within a year, his courses were the most sought after in the school. Students competed to learn from the man who had defeated an empire with 12 ships. Captain Una Park was promoted to Rear Admiral. She was given command of Earth's rebuilt Ninth Fleet, now expanded to 50 ships. Under her leadership, it became humanity's premier military force. She stood on the bridge of the new flagship, also named Indomitable, and felt the weight of responsibility. The Ninth Fleet wasn't just a military unit anymore. It was a symbol. It represented humanity's refusal to back down, humanity's ability to overcome impossible odds. "Admiral," her executive officer said, "we have our orders. The Council needs escorts for trade convoys near the Andromeda Gate." Una smiled. "Set course. The Ninth Fleet is ready." Commander Daejin Lim, promoted to captain, commanded his own ship now. But his real contribution was his book on modern space warfare. Every principle he had developed during the war was laid out in clear detail. Within 5 years, it was required reading in every military academy in the galaxy, Other species studied human tactics. Some tried to copy them. Most failed. The tactics required a certain mindset, a certain willingness to take risks that many species simply didn't have. Lieutenant Sora Zhang survived her injuries but couldn't fly combat missions anymore. Her injuries were too severe, but she was given command of Earth's flight school. Training the next generation of pilots, she was tougher on her students than any instructor in history. She made them practice until they could fly in their sleep. She pushed them beyond what they thought were their limits. "You think this is hard?" she would say. "Try fighting 8,000 ships with nothing but guts and a skip drive. That's hard. This is just practice." Her students loved her. They feared her. They respected her more than anyone else in the military. Captain Junho Nam became Commodore of Earth's Intelligence Division. His stealth ships continued to patrol, gathering information, watching for threats. Humanity would never be caught unprepared again. Engineering Chief Nari Kwan received offers from a dozen alien species. They wanted her to share human technology, teach them how to build ships as advanced as Earth's. She politely declined every offer. "Our technology stays with us," she said. "We earned it through years of struggle. We're happy to trade, to cooperate on projects, but we don't just give away what makes us strong." She did, however, publish several papers on engineering theory that revolutionized ship design across the galaxy. She couldn't help herself. She was a scientist at heart, and scientists shared knowledge. Across human space, new colonies were established. Earth now controlled 30 worlds. Human traders traveled routes that had once been closed to them. Human ships escorted convoys, protected trade, kept the peace. The galaxy had changed. Humanity was no longer the youngest species trying to prove itself. They were an established power, respected and sometimes feared. Other species learned to be careful around humans. The phrase, "don't anger the humans," became common wisdom. No one wanted to be the next Vothric Empire, destroyed by their own arrogance. 5 years after the war, Ambassador Hana stood in the council chamber during a ceremony. They were unveiling a memorial to all those who had died in the war. Human names and Vothric names side by side. "We remember the dead," Hana said. "Human and Vothric alike? They died because of pride and prejudice. Because old species refused to see value in young ones. Because an empire thought it could take what it wanted without consequences." She paused, looking at the memorial. "Let this stand as a reminder. War should always be the last option. But when it becomes necessary, fight to win. And when it's over, remember why it started, so it never happens again." High Priestess Velmara approached Hana after the ceremony. The ancient being looked tired. "You've changed the galaxy," she said quietly. "For better or worse, nothing will ever be the same." "Better," Hana replied firmly. "Before, the strong did what they wanted and the weak suffered. Now, the strong think twice. That's better, perhaps. But you've also made the galaxy more dangerous. Now everyone knows that small forces can defeat large ones with the right tactics. You've inspired rebellions, uprisings, challenges to established orders." Hana met her eyes. "Good, maybe established orders needed to be challenged." On SciFiPrime, a monument stood in the capital city. It listed every Vothric soldier who died in what they now called the Fool's War at its base. An inscription in both Vothric and human languages. "Let this stand as reminder. Underestimate no one. For even the smallest can bite when cornered. And humanity, when cornered, does not bite. It tears." The new Vothric overlord, a reformist who had opposed the war from the beginning, made sure every schoolchild visited the memorial. They needed to remember. They needed to understand that arrogance led to disaster. Relations between Earth and Vothros improved slowly. Trade agreements were signed. Cultural exchanges happened. It would take generations for trust to fully develop. But both sides were trying. 10 years after the war, Admiral Una Park gave a speech at the inauguration of Kepler Station, humanity's first deep space starbase. The ceremony was attended by representatives from dozens of species. "The Ninth Fleet became legendary," she said, "not because we were the strongest, or the largest, or the most advanced. We became legendary because we refused to accept defeat. We looked at impossible odds and said, "Not today." She gestured to the massive starbase behind her. "This station represents our future. We're not just warriors. We're builders, explorers, scientists. We're a species that dreams big and works hard to make those dreams real." "But," she added, her voice hardening, "we remember our lessons. The Ninth Fleet still patrols, still trains, still stands ready. We hope for peace. We work toward peace. But if war comes, we are prepared. And to anyone thinking about testing humanity again, remember the Vothric Empire. Remember the Grand Armada. Remember that we keep our promises." The crowd cheered. Ships from a dozen species saluted the Ninth Fleet as it passed by in formation. In his classroom at the Naval Academy, Admiral Tian Quan taught a new generation of officers. Commander De Kang stood in the dark observation room, staring at the holographic display floating before him. Small red dots moved slowly across the star map. Getting closer to the blue sphere that represented Earth, he had been watching these dots for 3 years now, ever since Dr. Hana Yun first detected them at the edge of the solar system. "They're not slowing down," Hana said from behind him. She walked up to the display, her tired eyes reflecting the red glow of the enemy fleet. "At their current speed, they'll reach Earth orbit in 48 hours. Day nodded slowly. He was a tall man with gray hair and a metal plate covering half his skull, a reminder of the Mars expedition that changed everything. That mission, 15 years ago, had found ruins. Ancient alien ruins that told a dark story about the galaxy. Civilizations rose and fell. Some fell because stronger species hunted them down, harvested their worlds, and moved on to the next target. "Has the Council approved Protocol Ember?" Hannah asked. "They approved it 2 hours ago," Day replied. "Every nation, every leader. They all agreed. For the first time in human history, we're truly united." Hannah laughed bitterly. "It only took an alien invasion." Day turned away from the display and walked toward the window. Below him, he could see the hidden military base stretching for miles underground. Thousands of people worked here, building weapons that the public didn't know existed. When the Mars expedition found those ruins, world governments made a choice. They decided to prepare in secret. They built weapons. They trained soldiers. They turned every satellite and space station into a potential weapon. "How many people know the truth?" Hannah asked. "About the fleet?" "Maybe 10,000 across all nations," Day said. "About what we've been building. Even fewer." Captain Jin Woo entered the room, his flight suit still damp with sweat from training. He was young, barely 30, but he was the best pilot Day had ever seen. Behind him came Specialist Myra Song, carrying a datapad. "Sir, the Phoenix Wing Squadron is ready," Jin said, saluting. "All 50 pilots completed the gravity well combat simulation. We're prepared for orbital engagement." Good, Day said. "Myra, what about their communications?" Myra stepped forward, adjusting her glasses. "We intercepted another message from their lead ship. It's the same as before. They're calling themselves the Vreneth Collective. The message says we have one choice: submit to harvesting or be destroyed." "Harvesting," Hannah spat. "They talk about us like we're crops." "That's exactly what they think we are," Day said. "According to the Mars ruins, this is what they do. They travel from world to world, taking resources and slaves. They've done it hundreds of times." Jin crossed his arms. "Have we sent a response?" "No," Day said firmly. "And we won't." Complete radio silence. "Let them think we're primitive and scared. Let them come close." Myra looked worried. "Sir, shouldn't we at least try to communicate? Maybe we can avoid a war." Day turned to face her. His expression was hard, carved from years of military service and the weight of knowing what was coming. "Specialist Song, those ruins on Mars? They weren't just buildings. They were warnings. The civilization that built them tried to communicate with species like the Vreneth. You know what happened to them?" Myra shook her head. "They were harvested." Every last one. The Vreneth don't negotiate with prey. Day walked back to the star map. We have one advantage. They think we're defenseless. They think we're just another easy target, but we've had 15 years to prepare. We've built weapons they don't expect. We've studied their technology from the Mars ruins. We know their tactics. Hannah pulled up new images on the display. These are their ships. The Vreneth use organic technology, ships grown from living materials. They're strong, but they have weaknesses. They need constant energy feeds. They can't handle certain frequencies of electromagnetic pulse, which is why engineer Narration spent 5 years building EMP mines, Jin added. We've scattered them throughout near-Earth space. The Vreneth won't see them coming. Day smiled grimly. Exactly. We've turned our entire solar system into a trap. Over the next 2 days, Day watched as Earth transformed. Military units moved into position. Orbital platforms activated weapon systems hidden inside civilian equipment. On the moon, massive railguns emerged from beneath the surface dust where they had been buried for a decade. In the asteroid belt, a secret fleet of warships prepared to move. Day walked through the command center, watching hundreds of officers work at their stations. Admiral Borahan was coordinating the orbital fleet. General Wano was managing ground defenses. Sergeant Tae Lim was running final checks on the surface-based railgun network. Everyone knew their role. Everyone was ready. Sir, Myra called out. The Vreneth fleet is beginning deceleration. They'll be in orbit within 12 hours. Let me see their formation, Day ordered. The main screen showed the enemy fleet. Hundreds of ships, each one bigger than anything humans had ever built. They moved in perfect formation, like a swarm of insects descending on a flower. Jin stood beside Day, studying the formation. They're not even trying to be cautious. Look at that. They're coming in close together, probably planning to overwhelm us with numbers. They've done this before, Hannah said. Maybe thousands of times. They're efficient hunters. Why would they expect Earth to be different? Day felt a cold anger in his chest. For 3 years, he had prepared for this moment. He had studied the enemy. He had planned every detail. The Vreneth thought they were coming to harvest a primitive world. They had no idea what was waiting for them. All units, Day said into his communicator. This is command. Maintain silence protocol. Do not activate any systems until my order. Let them get close. Let them think they've already won. Hours passed. The Vreneth fleet entered Earth's orbital space. Their ships were massive, organic creatures that looked more like sea animals than spacecraft. They began to spread out, positioning themselves above major cities. Landing craft separated from the main ships, heading toward the surface. Day watched it all on the tactical display. His heart was calm. His mind was clear. Sir, Admiral Bora said through the com. They're in optimal position. All units report ready. Day looked at the faces around him. Hana, Jin, Myra, and hundreds of others. They were all waiting for his command. The Vreneth came here to harvest us, Day said quietly. They think we're prey. They think we're defenseless. He pressed the activation button on his command console. Let's show them what happens when you hunt humans. Across Earth's orbit, weapon systems came online. On the moon, railguns powered up. In the darkness of space, EMP mines activated. And in the hidden bases across Earth, millions of soldiers prepared for war. The Vreneth had targeted Earth, but they found humans already waiting with flames. The first Vreneth landing craft broke through Earth's atmosphere over Sol. Inside the alien ship, the commander studied the readings with satisfaction. No resistance. No weapons fire. No response at all. Just like all the other primitive worlds they had harvested, the commander sent a signal to the fleet. Begin collection. Expected resistance, minimal. Then the sky exploded. Captain Jin Woo's fighter emerged from behind the moon at impossible speed. His squadron followed, 50 ships moving as one. They had been hiding in the lunar shadow for 6 hours, waiting for this exact moment. Jin's targeting computer locked onto the nearest Vreneth cruiser. Phoenix Wing, this is Phoenix Leader, Jin said calmly into his com. Light them up. Kinetic missiles launched from every fighter. These weren't ordinary missiles. Engineer Nara Kim had designed them specifically to bypass Vreneth shielding. Instead of explosive warheads, they carried dense tungsten cores traveling at 20,000 meters per second. Pure physics. Pure destruction. The first volley hit the Vreneth cruiser before its crew even detected the attack. The tungsten rods punched through the organic hull like bullets through wet paper. Atmosphere vented into space. The massive ship began to spin out of control. Target destroyed, Jin reported. Moving to next target. Admiral Borahan watched from the orbital command station as her carefully planned ambush unfolded. She had spent 10 years preparing for this battle. Every orbital platform, every satellite, every piece of space debris had been weaponized. Now it was time to use them. Activate the minefield, she ordered. Throughout near-Earth space, thousands of small objects that looked like ordinary satellites suddenly came alive. These were Nara's EMP mines, carefully positioned over years. They detonated in a coordinated sequence, releasing powerful electromagnetic pulses. Vreneth fighters died by the dozens. Their organic systems couldn't handle the electromagnetic shock. Ships that had been moving in formation suddenly went dark, drifting helplessly. Some crashed into each other. Others fell toward Earth's atmosphere where they would burn up. On the surface, Sergeant Tae Lim sat in the control room of Railgun Platform 7. Built into a mountain in South Korea, his fingers moved across the controls as targeting data flowed into his systems. I have lock-on landing craft, he reported. Firing. The railgun roared. A 2-meter-long tungsten rod launched at hypersonic speed. It crossed 20 kilometers in less than 2 seconds and struck a Vreneth landing craft. The rod went through the craft from top to bottom, and the alien ship exploded in mid-air. Target destroyed, Tay said. He was already tracking the next one. Firing again. All across Earth, hidden railguns opened fire. The Vreneth had expected to land unopposed. Instead, their landing craft were being picked off one by one before they could reach the ground dot in the command center. Commander Dae Kang watched the battle unfold across multiple screens. 3 years of planning were paying off. The Vreneth were in chaos, unable to understand how a primitive species had ambushed them so effectively. Casualty report, Dae ordered. Enemy losses at 38% and rising, Myra Song reported. We've destroyed 4 cruisers and 47 landing craft. Our losses, 2 fighters, 1 orbital platform damaged. Dae nodded. The ratio was better than he had hoped. But this was just the beginning. High above the planet, the Vreneth command ship finally realized what was happening. The commander stared at his displays in disbelief. Impossible. The humans had weapons. Advanced weapons. This was supposed to be an easy harvest. All ships combat formation. The Vreneth commander ordered. Deploy hunters. Find and destroy their weapon platforms. The Vreneth began to adapt. Larger ships moved to shield the landing craft. Fighter swarms launched to hunt down Jin's squadron. Ground forces that had already landed began to organize in Seoul. The first Vreneth soldiers emerged from a crashed landing craft. They were large creatures covered in organic armor that shifted and moved like living skin. They carried weapons that fired bolts of concentrated energy. South Korean Defense forces were waiting. Lieutenant Sung Park led the Hellfire Battalion, a mechanized unit equipped with the latest exosuits. These suits made soldiers stronger, faster, and nearly invincible. Sung watched through his helmet display as the aliens moved through the ruined streets. Hold fire until they're in the kill zone, he ordered. The Vreneth soldiers moved forward confidently. They had harvested hundreds of worlds. They expected the local population to flee in terror. Instead, they walked into a trap. Now! Sung shouted. The street exploded with fire. The Hellfire Battalion emerged from buildings and underground positions. Their weapons fired thermite-enhanced rounds that burned at 3,000 degrees. The rounds hit Vreneth armor and kept burning. Melting through the organic material, the aliens tried to return fire, but human soldiers in exosuits were too fast. They moved between buildings, using the urban terrain to their advantage. Every soldier had trained for this moment. Every unit knew exactly what to do. A Vreneth soldier managed to hit Sung's suit with an energy bolt. The impact knocked him back, but the suit's armor held. Sung raised his rifle and fired a 3-round burst. The thermite rounds hit the alien center mass and it went down burning. "They're falling back?" one of Sung's soldiers shouted. "Don't let them regroup," Sung ordered. "Press forward." The battle for Seoul raged for 6 hours. By the end, the streets were littered with burning Vreneth corpses. The aliens had expected easy prey. They found soldiers who had trained specifically to kill them. In orbit, Jin's squadron continued their assault. They had destroyed 8 more Vreneth ships, but the enemy was starting to coordinate. Enemy fighters were faster and more maneuverable than human craft. "Phoenix Leader, you have 3 bogeys on your tail," his wingman warned. Jin pulled his fighter into a spiral dive toward Earth's atmosphere. The Vreneth fighters followed, firing energy weapons that lit up the darkness. Jin waited until the last moment, then activated his reverse thrusters. His fighter nearly stopped in space. The Vreneth fighters shot past him, unable to match the maneuver. Jin's weapons came online and he fired. 2 enemy fighters exploded. The third managed to dodge, but Jin's wingman destroyed it. "Nice flying," Jin said. "Learn from the best," his wingman replied. Back in the command center, Day studied the tactical situation. The first wave of the battle was going well, but the Vreneth fleet was huge. They had only damaged a portion of it. "Myra, have you broken their communications yet?" he asked. "Working on it," Myra replied. Her fingers flew across her keyboard as she tried to decode Vreneth transmissions. "Their encryption is complex, but I'm making progress." Suddenly, her screen filled with decoded text. "I'm in. I can hear their command channel." "Put it on speaker," Day ordered. The command center filled with alien voices, translated by the computer. The Vreneth commander was furious. "Impossible. How does a pre-space civilization have this technology? Where did they get railguns? Where did they get electromagnetic weapons?" Another voice responded, "Commander, our losses are unacceptable. We should withdraw and report to the collective." "No!" the commander shouted. "We do not retreat from prey. Send the second wave. Overwhelm them with numbers." Day smiled coldly. "They still think they can win through numbers." "Myra, send a message to all units. Tell them the enemy is sending reinforcements. Prepare for Phase 2? Admiral Bora's voice came through the comm. "Commander, should we activate the lunar batteries?" "Not yet," Day said. "Let them commit more forces. Let them think they're gaining ground. Then we'll hit them with everything." The Vreneth fleet deployed its second wave. Hundreds more ships moved toward Earth, darkening the sky above the planet. On the surface, soldiers looked up and saw the armada descending, but they didn't feel fear. They felt ready. The Vreneth had targeted Earth expecting an easy harvest. Instead, they had found a species that refused to be prey, and the battle had only just begun. Dr. Hana Yun stood on the observation deck of Solar Station 3, watching Earth through the reinforced windows. The planet below was wrapped in fire and smoke. Hundreds of battles raged across the surface. In orbit, debris from destroyed ships created new constellations of wreckage. "Dr. Yun," a technician called out. "The solar collectors are fully charged." Hannah turned to her console. Solar Station 3 was one of 5 massive platforms designed to collect energy from the sun. Officially, they powered Earth cities. Unofficially, Hana had spent 8 years turning them into weapons. "Target the Vreneth carrier group over the Pacific," she ordered. Her team worked quickly, adjusting the mirrors and focusing arrays. The station began to rotate, aiming its collection dish at the enemy ships, firing in 3.2. A beam of concentrated sunlight, narrowed to the width of a building, shot across space. It hit the lead Vreneth carrier with the power of a small star. The organic hull began to burn immediately. The ship tried to move, but the beam followed it. Within seconds, the carrier was cut in half. Atmosphere and bodies vented into space. Target destroyed, Hannah reported. Acquiring next target. The solar beam swept across the Vreneth formation like a knife through butter. Ships that had survived railgun fire and missiles couldn't withstand the pure thermal energy. Armor melted. Systems failed. Ships died on Earth's surface. Lieutenant Sung Park and his Hellfire Battalion were pushing deeper into Vreneth-held territory. The aliens had taken over several blocks of Seoul, trying to establish a forward base. Sung wasn't going to let that happen. Load thermite rounds, he ordered his troops. The battalion had discovered something important. Vreneth soldiers struggled in Earth's heat. Their homeworld was cold, with thin atmosphere and little oxygen. Earth's warm, oxygen-rich air made them sluggish. And fire. Fire terrified them. Sung's troops fired their thermite rounds at the buildings the aliens occupied. The rounds burst on impact, spreading burning magnesium throughout the structures. The buildings became furnaces. Vreneth soldiers stumbled out, their organic armor smoking. "Hit them now!" Sung shouted. His battalion opened fire. The aliens fell quickly, unable to coordinate in the heat and smoke. Within minutes, the entire block was cleared. "Sir, we've taken the area," one of Sung's soldiers reported. "Enemy casualties estimated at 200. "Good," Sung said. "Set up fire barriers around the perimeter. If more aliens come, they'll have to walk through flames to reach us." Back in the command center, Specialist Myra Song was making a breakthrough. She had been listening to Vreneth communications for hours, learning their language and understanding their tactics. "Commander Kang," she called out. "I've found something important." Day walked over to her station. "What is it?" The Vreneth evolved on a planet called Viaran. It's a frozen world, average temperature minus 40 degrees. Low oxygen, high nitrogen atmosphere. Myra pulled up data on her screen. "Sir, they can't handle Earth's environment. Our heat is killing them as much as our weapons." Day leaned forward, studying the information. "Can we use this?" "Absolutely," Myra said. "If we increase the heat and smoke in combat zones, it will slow them down. Make them easier targets." Day immediately opened a channel to all ground commanders. "All units, new tactical order. Use fire as a weapon. Burn everything near enemy positions. Create smoke. Make it hot. The aliens can't handle our climate." Across Earth, the order was carried out. Soldiers started fires near Vreneth positions. Chemical plants released hot steam into the air. Cities activated emergency heat systems. Earth's atmosphere became a weapon dot in the Sahara Desert. General Huan O watched as Vreneth forces tried to advance across the sand. The aliens were struggling. The desert heat, reaching 50 degrees Celsius, was devastating to them. Their armor couldn't cool them fast enough. Soldiers collapsed from heat exhaustion. "Begin bombardment," General Huan ordered. Artillery opened fire, but these weren't normal shells. They were incendiary rounds that burst on impact, spreading burning gel across the sand. The desert became an inferno. Vreneth troops caught in the flames didn't just burn, they melted. "Enemy advances stopped," a tactical officer reported. "They're retreating." "Don't let them," General Huan said. "Send in the armor. Run them down." Human tanks rolled forward, their crews protected from the heat by climate control systems. The Vreneth, exhausted and overheated, couldn't mount effective resistance. The battle became a slaughter. Captain Jin Woo was having his own success in orbital space. His squadron had figured out the weakness of Vreneth fighters. The organic ships needed constant energy feed from their carriers. Cut off from that feed, they died quickly. "All fighters, target the carrier's energy nodes," Jin ordered. "The nodes are the glowing sections on the hull." His squadron dove toward a Vreneth carrier, dodging energy fire. They released their missiles in a coordinated strike. The missiles hit the carrier's energy nodes, and the ship's glow flickered and died. Immediately, hundreds of Vreneth fighters went dark, drifting helplessly. "Splash one carrier," Jin reported. "Moving to next target." But the Vreneth weren't giving up. Their command ship released a new wave of troops, larger and better armored. These soldiers wore sealed environmental suits that protected them from heat. They were dropped directly into combat zones. Lieutenant Sung's battalion encountered them first. The new Vreneth soldiers were tougher, faster, more disciplined. One of them charged Sung's position, firing continuously. Sung's exosuit took multiple hits. "These ones are different," Sung warned his troops. "Concentrate fire." The battalion focused their weapons on the advancing aliens. Even with thermite rounds, it took multiple hits to bring them down. The battle became desperate. Close quarters fighting in the ruins of Seoul. Sung grappled with a Vreneth soldier. His exosuit's strength matched against alien biology. They crashed through a wall, rolling across rubble. The alien tried to tear off Sung's helmet. Sung activated his suit's arm blade and drove it through the alien's faceplate. "They're tough, but they can still die," Sung told his troops. "Keep fighting." In space, the battle was reaching a critical point. The Vreneth command ship had moved into orbital range, bringing its heavy weapons to bear. The massive vessel fired beams of energy that destroyed orbital platforms and satellites. Admiral Borahan watched two of her platforms explode. She had held back Earth's secret weapon for this moment. Now it was time to use it. "Activate the lunar batteries," she ordered, on the far side of the moon. Massive gun emplacements emerged from underground bunkers. These railguns were 10 times larger than anything on Earth. They had been built in secret over 15 years, waiting for this moment. "Batteries charging," the weapons officer reported. "Target locked, Vreneth command ship." "Fire," Admiral Bora said. The lunar batteries fired in sequence. 6 tungsten rods, each the size of a building, launched at incredible speed. They crossed the distance to Earth orbit in seconds. The first rod hit the Vreneth command ship's forward section. The impact was like a meteor strike. The second rod hit the midsection. The third, fourth, and fifth rods slammed into the ship's drive systems. The command ship broke apart, its organic hull unable to withstand the kinetic energy. Pieces of the vessel fell toward Earth, burning up in the atmosphere like falling stars. On the Vreneth command channel, which Myra was still monitoring, there was only silence. Then a new voice spoke. A lower-ranked commander, taking control. "All ships, begin withdrawal." "Repeat, begin withdrawal. We cannot win this engagement." Commander De Kong heard the order and smiled. "No," he said quietly. "You're not withdrawing." "Not yet." He opened a channel to Admiral Bora. "Admiral, deploy the asteroid fleet. Don't let any of them escape." "Yes, sir," Bora replied, from the asteroid belt. A fleet of warships that Earth had been building for a decade began to move. They had been waiting for this moment, positioned to cut off any retreat. The Vreneth fleet tried to pull back, but they were surrounded. Human ships came from all directions. The sky above Earth became a graveyard of alien vessels. Dr. Hana. Yun's solar beams continued to slice through enemy ships. Jinwoo's squadron hunted down fleeing fighters. On the ground, Sung's battalion and others pushed forward, reclaiming territory block by block. The Vreneth had come to Earth expecting to harvest a primitive species. Instead, they found humans who had turned their entire world into a weapon. The prey had become the predator, and the hunt was far from over. Commander De Kang stood on the bridge of the warship Indomitable, humanity's first true battlecruiser. The ship had been built in the asteroid belt, hidden from Earth's population for 12 years. Now it was leading a fleet of 20 warships in pursuit of the retreating Vreneth. "Status report," they ordered. "Enemy fleet is fleeing toward the outer system," reported the tactical officer. "They're heading for the jump point near Neptune. If they reach it, they'll escape to deep space." "How long until they reach the jump point?" 18 hours at their current speed. Day studied the star map. The Vreneth had lost more than half their fleet in Earth orbit. Now they were running, desperate to return home and warn their collective about humanity. They couldn't allow that. "All ships, maximum acceleration," he ordered. "We're going to intercept them before they jump." Behind him, Captain Jin Woo prepared his squadron for launch. After the orbital battle, Jin had volunteered to join the pursuit fleet. His pilots were exhausted, but none of them wanted to stop fighting. Phoenix Wing is ready for deployment, Jin reported. Good, Day said. When we engage, I need your squadron to focus on their carriers. Without carrier support, their fighters will die quickly. Engineer Nara Kim was also aboard the Indomitable. She had spent the past week studying captured Vrenith technology, looking for weaknesses to exploit. What she found was disturbing. Commander, Nara said, entering the bridge. I need to show you something. Day followed her to the engineering bay, where a captured Vrenith fighter sat on the deck. The organic ship pulsed slowly, like a dying animal. These ships are alive, Nara explained. Not just organic technology actually alive. They're grown, not built. And they have a weakness. She injected something into the ship's hull. Within seconds, the fighter began to convulse. Its skin blistered and cracked. It died within a minute. What did you do? Day asked. I created a virus, Nara said. Specifically designed to attack Vrenith bioships. If we can get this into their fleet, it will spread like wildfire. Their ships will tear themselves apart. Day looked at the dead fighter, then at Nara. How do we deliver it? We need to get close enough to inject it into one of their larger ships. A carrier would be ideal. Once inside their network, it will spread to every connected vessel. Jin, Day said into his com. I have a new mission for you. The human fleet caught up to the Vrenith near Jupiter. The aliens were trying to refuel their ships using the planet's atmosphere, a desperate move that showed how badly they had been damaged. They didn't expect humans to pursue them this far from Earth. All ships, battle formation, Day ordered. Begin attack. The Indomitable's main guns opened fire. Tungsten rods shot across space, slamming into Vrenith ships. The aliens tried to return fire, but their weapons were depleted. They had used most of their energy in the failed invasion. Jin's squadron launched from the Indomitable's hangar bay. They were carrying a special missile loaded with Nara's virus. The mission was simple: get close to a carrier and deliver the payload. Phoenix Wing, follow my lead, Jin said. His squadron dove into the Vrenith formation. Energy beams lit up space around them. 2 fighters were hit and destroyed immediately. Jin kept going, pushing his engines to maximum. A massive Vrenith carrier loomed ahead. It was launching fighters to defend itself, but Jin's squadron cut through them. He locked onto the carrier's hull and fired the missile. The projectile hit the carrier and burrowed into its organic structure. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the carrier began to shake. Its skin developed black spots that spread rapidly. The ship started to scream an actual sound transmitted through its communication systems. Virus deployed, Jin reported. Breaking off. What happened next was devastating. The infected carrier spread the virus to nearby ships through its energy network. Within minutes, dozens of Vrenith vessels were dying. Their hulls split open. Their systems failed. The organic ships literally tore themselves apart from the inside. The Vrenith fleet panicked. Ships broke formation, trying to flee in all directions. But there was nowhere to go. General Huano's ships had positioned themselves to cut off all escape routes. This is General O to all units, his voice came through the com. Execute pincer maneuver. Trap them against Jupiter's gravity well. Human warships moved into position, forming a net around the fleeing aliens. The Vrenith tried to break through, but they were too weak. Every ship that tried to escape was destroyed on the Vrenith command channel, which Specialist Myra Song was still monitoring from the Indomitable. The aliens were desperate. This is Fleet Commander Vex to any human vessels, a voice said in broken English. We request immediate ceasefire. We wish to negotiate surrender. Day listened to the message. Around him, his bridge crew waited for his response. He thought about Earth's 4 million dead. He thought about the cities destroyed. He thought about what the Vrenith had planned to do to humanity. Open a channel, Day said. Myra activated the communication system. Channel open, sir. Fleet Commander Vex, this is Commander Day Kang of Earth Forces, he said calmly. You came to our world with a harvesting fleet. You intended to enslave or kill every human on Earth, now you want to negotiate? There was silence on the other end. Then, we did not know your species was capable of resistance. We made an error. Please allow us to withdraw. We will not return. Day's expression was cold. No, you targeted humans because you thought we were weak. You thought we were prey. You were wrong. Please, the alien commander said. We have families, hatchlings, spare us. You showed no mercy to the hundreds of species you harvested before us, Day replied. Why should we show you mercy? He closed the channel and turned to his weapons officer. Destroy them all. The human fleet opened fire with everything they had. Railguns, missiles, energy weapons salvaged from captured alien ships. The remaining Vreneth vessels were torn apart. Some tried to flee into Jupiter's atmosphere, but the planet's gravity crushed them. Others tried to jump to deep space without reaching the proper jump point and were torn apart by the failed transition within 2 hours. The battle was over. Not a single Vreneth ship remained functional, but Day wasn't finished. The aliens had to have come from somewhere. They had a homeworld, bases, other fleets. Myra, he said. Can you access the navigation data from any of the wrecked ships? I can try, she replied. Give me an hour. Myra worked quickly, pulling data from a damaged Vreneth carrier that was still partially intact. She found star charts, fleet positions, and most importantly, the location of Vreneth space. Got it, she said. Their territory is about 40 light-years from Earth. They have 12 colony worlds and 1 homeworld. Day studied the data. How many ships do they have in total? According to this, the fleet they sent to Earth was one of 3 harvesting fleets. The other 2 are operating in different sectors. But their home defense fleet is massive. Hundreds of ships. Then we need to be smart about this, Day said. He called a meeting with his senior officers. Admiral Borahan joined via holographic communication from her ship. General Huano was physically present, having transferred to the Indomitable. Jin Wu and Nara Kim were also there. The Vreneth sent a harvesting fleet to Earth, Day began. We destroyed it. But they have more fleets, more ships, more resources. If we go home now, they'll eventually come back with everything they have. So what do you propose? Admiral Bora asked. We take the fight to them, Day said. We find their outposts, their bases, their supply lines. We destroy everything. We make sure they can never threaten Earth again. General Huan nodded. A preemptive campaign? We become the hunters. Exactly, Day said. The Vreneth need to understand something. Humans don't just defend. When threatened, we hunt. And we don't stop until the threat is eliminated. Jin spoke up. Sir, our ships were built for system defense, not long-range operations. How will we sustain a campaign in deep space? Nara smiled. I've been working on that. Vreneth ships use biological engines that can refuel from stellar radiation. I can modify our ships to use the same technology. We can turn their own innovation against them. How long will the modifications take? Day asked. 2 weeks per ship, Nara replied. But we can work on multiple ships simultaneously. Day made his decision. We have 20 ships in this fleet. We'll modify 10 for deep space operations. The other 10 will return to Earth with our wounded and damaged fighters. Admiral Bora, I want you to command the home defense. Make sure Earth is protected while we're gone. Understood, Bora said. What about the civilian government? They'll want a say in this. We'll send them our recommendations, Day said. But this is a military operation. Earth is safe for now. Our job is to make sure it stays that way. Over the next 2 weeks, Nara and her engineering teams worked around the clock. They modified human warships to use Vreneth technology. The ships became hybrids, combining human weaponry with alien efficiency. During this time, more ships arrived from Earth, volunteers who wanted to join the hunt. By the end of the preparation period, Day commanded a fleet of 30 warships and 200 fighters. On the day of departure, Day stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, looking at Earth through the view screen. It was a small blue dot, but it represented everything worth fighting for. All ships report ready, the tactical officer said.